Don in London. Hello, it's January the 24th, 2013. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substances or behaviour, or both, in my case. My substance of addiction, alcohol. My behaviour, addicted to the right people in the right place at the right time. In fact, probably addicted to trying to make life perfect, and I never succeeded. So I set myself an impossible ask of myself and probably other people, and now I don't set myself impossible asks. I'm never going to be perfect, but I can make progress towards having a happy life. So I guess my ambitions have changed, but I didn't even know what my ambitions were to start with. So whatever I thought I ought to be or should have been in the past is not the issue. What's important is how I make best use of today, how today works sober for me. And what made this possible? Well, being part of a fellowship, and that fellowship is Alcoholics Anonymous. I never speak for the fellowship. It doesn't have spokespersons and it doesn't have leaders. It has people who go there, who share their experience, strength and hope, and are in service with everybody else. Service to the cause, which is to be sober one day at a time and help other people achieve that as well. So I will share the AA preamble at the beginning of my videos, simply because that's what you will encounter when you go to a meeting of AA, and it sort of makes it explicit that AA is not affiliated to me and these videos, and I'm very happy about that, because I don't want to speak for you if you're in fellowship, and I don't want to speak for people coming into the fellowship who have listened to my videos. It's always the many voices in the fellowship which makes the difference in recovery. Not to be like them, but to find out who you can be just for today. So you get your identity back one day at a time. And that's good news, because we're no longer striving to be the person we thought we should be. We're being the person we can be. So the AA preamble is as follows. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So what you see is what you get. Good, bad and ugly. The good of life, the bad of life, the ugly of life, and what we're doing about it in terms of experience, strength and hope. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So that's why I do these videos, but they're not AA endorsed. They can't be, because there is no spokesperson, no leadership within AA, but there are only trusted servants who carry out the will and wishes of the people within the fellowship, who make the suggestions as they can about how to conduct ourselves within the fellowship and how to become free people, free to make good choices today. And it's nobody else's business what your choices are, except those that you're interacting with on a daily basis. So for the 24th of January, my words. So simple, don't drink and go to meetings. And yet so complicated. What is the most natural thing to do for an alcoholic? Drink, simply drink. An old life with a foundation built on drinking for many of us, and then a new life where we stop drinking completely, and then life will be okay. Will it? When people say don't drink and go to meetings, that is simply a starting point and not a finishing point. If we are truly to live an emotional and spiritual experience one day at a time, an emotional and spiritual experience is emotional, knowing what your feelings are, spiritual, in the moment of now, and coping with them, hopefully. And if we can't cope with them, we can ask for help. We need to change our attitudes and behaviour, not just stop drinking, start living and learning life all over again. And that was me. I had to start learning life again. by the time I got to AA properly, not just the initial stab at it, when I got there properly and said, okay, I know I'm going to go through some pain. It can't be as bad as the years of pain which I've just endured. Or can it? Well, for a short time it was just as bad and just as horrible, but without the drink. Countless times I stopped drinking and went to meetings. Sometimes I stopped drinking for a day, a week, a month, and even a year on one occasion. Not drinking for a year was on the advice of medical professionals who were looking after me after I had a nervous breakdown caused by work exhaustion. Going on to the bitter end, working at things which I could do but were not good for me in any shape or form. And once we had become reliant on only one element of life to sustain our reason for living, at that time it was work for me. Once that usefulness had disappeared, it seemed like I had disappeared as well. I could see no usefulness in life, and I felt useless. And I can remember getting in contact with people who knew me from the place where I worked, and they said, "Oh, people love you here, come back." But I couldn't see it, I couldn't feel it, and I was broken and exhausted. So no matter how much I was encouraged by some, there was one person who didn't want me back, and that was my boss, because I was useless to him, and I was useless generally. But I didn't really know that. I was still full of what-ifs, and the madness of why am I like this? So I could see no usefulness in life, and I felt useless. And the world seemed to want me back doing the things I used to do, and they would have preferred there'd been no nervous breakdown at all. Oddly, I stopped drinking quite a time before the nervous breakdown. Indeed I did, several months before I realised drink isn't going to make anything better, and I just stopped. And then the horror. So I stopped because I was just in case it was the drink that was causing it. Indeed, without the drink, the nervous breakdown came on sooner rather than later. Life had no meaning for years and years, and that's where I got to, because the only thing I felt I could be successful at was work. I was heartbroken from relationships, and it wasn't anybody's fault. I just misunderstood love, romance and everything. I didn't feel good enough, and the more I strived for perfection, the more I drove people mad around me, and they left, quite rightly, to continue their lives in a more sane way. Anyway, so when some kind soul said to me, don't drink and go to meetings, without the other suggestions to find a fulfilling life on an emotional and spiritual level where I would feel useful again, it was not enough, because my feelings erupted. This is when I stopped drinking. My feelings erupted, and the self-hate just led to hating the world as it was, and not the world I used to have, nor the world I wished for. And the final years of oblivion, leading up to a suggestion to go to fellowship of AA, pulled me down so far I could not make sense of anything, and certainly not living anymore. So it was a minor miracle to have found someone who said it was right to start with don't drink and go to meetings, and then they said listen to the similarities from other people who share common ground and share common experiences. Oh, and by the way, they said, go to 90 meetings in 90 days, or do more than that if you can, because that will help you stop needing a drink, but it won't stop you wanting a drink on a daily basis. At last. Somebody was suggesting, and being realistic with me, stopping drinking one day at a time. It was going to be a struggle and a nightmare and horrible. But having endured years of horror, a few days of more horror without drink was going to be a possibility if I did what was suggested as advice, and not a command, and not somebody trying to control me, because I was a rebel without a cause most of my life, and when I got a cause I would be rebellious, or I would be used as some sort of change agent, changing how people did things, or changing their skills and abilities. I was very good at that because my life was shit, and I had to keep on changing. Well, that's how it felt. I really don't feel my listening skills were very good back then. When I first got to the Fellowship of AA and was really having a go at trying to keep sober, I heard people speak, and I could hear them speak about things I had experienced, but they seemed to have less pain about their recovery and did not experience the amount of pain I did. If only you knew how bad it was for me, I was thinking. Well, of course, talking about the pain in the first few days is not the same as experiencing the pain in the first few days, because we are relating how the pain was, and anyone in that place of pain is feeling it then and there. So it was real life pain, rather than talking about the pain they went through. And the trouble is, we do get a bit humorous about pain and disaster, because that's how we cope with it sometimes. Because we are relating how the pain was, and anyone in that place of pain is then feeling it then and there. My feelings were, if your pain was as bad as mine right now, the only thing that can stop this pain is a drink. And so this battle going on, an agreement with myself to go through the pain, and the other part of me, knowing that a drink would take the pain away, but probably was, if I took the pain away with a drink, I would surely find no way to stop drinking at all. And the message from the fellowship will be lost. I don't know what the odds are when it comes to making these decisions, as if they are decisions. I mean, are we in our right mind? This is part of the journey where the odds are stacked against everyone who takes this journey into recovery. The start of a little bit of courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, and just having enough of an inkling or confidence that there may be a solution one day at a time. So this is why we do see people come, have a look, go away, then come back maybe, or somehow some people seem to slot in, say, okay, I get it, I wish I'd been one of them. But no, things were so ingrained in me, it was going to take time to say, okay, old life and drink, I really have to let you go, and I've got to endure some pain, sorrow, desolation, horrible depression, in order to get to a place where I can start to hear what's going on, have some courage to change, faith in the next right thing, and just enough confidence to say, okay, I am allowed a chance. I am allowed a chance to recover. 90 meetings in 90 days. I did more than 90 meetings in 90 days, sometimes 3 or 4 meetings a day, walking to them, getting there. Can't walk so far these days, I've got real crippling pains. But I got there, and having a cup of coffee, a biscuit, and trying not to shake too much, because I still had horrible shakes. My body was just craving alcohol. Meetings, everyone seemed to be sharing. Sometimes they were laughing, sometimes they were crying, and sometimes they just seemed to spout nonsense about things they understood and I could not understand. Talk of the 12 steps, how they saved lives, and I had no clue what 12 steps would do for me. Would I turn into a robot, and the 12 steps stop me from being a human being with free will? Would the 12 steps turn me into some sort of member of a cult? And would I have to believe in God to be saved from my killer malady? The answer to all those questions: I'm not a robot, I have freedom of choice, I'm not part of a cult, I have my own belief in life, and I've been saved from a killer malady, just for one day. Was it a smooth transition into recovery? No! Exclamation mark. From the first meeting to the second meeting, it took me 5 years. And somebody said you weren't ready for recovery, and that made me mad as hell in my head, that somebody said I wasn't ready. How dare they? But they were right. The first meeting of the fellowship was not made as a conscious choice by me. And then the first meeting I attended, my neighbours were there, well, not all of them, but some of them, alcoholics in recovery. I always wondered why they never went to the majestic wine warehouse at the end of the road. And I used to come back with a man with a sack truck carrying cases of wine to my establishment. My neighbours were there, people I knew from my health club. They were all around me. People from the arts club abounded, where I'd been doorman. This was after I was, how did it go? W.H. Smith as a retailer sales assistant, Blockbusters as a sales assistant. I can't remember the order. No, it was Blockbusters. This was after the house painting. and before that the big life, looking after people at executive board level for many years. It's amazing what you can turn your hand to when you're a hopeless alcoholic. Survival, I think it's called. Anyway, people from the Arts Club abounded, and my mum's best friend was in the front row. And my mum's best friend said to me, "It's good to see you here. We were worried that you might not make it." I could see how happy everybody was, except me. A fish out of water is the way I felt. So an active alcoholic encountering a group of people who are in recovery and don't drink anymore. Well, so I went to the Trafalgar pub at the end of the road, that's on the King's Road in Chelsea, and then ran away from life, pretty much everybody I knew, for the next 5 years, and drank myself into hospital and intensive care more than once. And I even sold up and ran away. So I had nothing, absolutely nothing, except an insane head and a drink in hand. Along the way, the empty feelings, or rather the lack of feelings about anything, and desolation just got worse. Self-contempt and then contempt for everything is bleak and black living. And today I know that everyone experiences these difficult times on the road to recovery. We cope with life in recovery and can ask for help from anyone anywhere if we are minded to do so. And everyone around us, minded to do so, and ask for help. Sometimes we get it straight away, which is simply emotional support. And often we simply learn from everyone around us and find the solutions happen in a timely way when we have learned how to cope with whatever was bothering us. And usually we do that in the moment of now. So we no longer accumulate great big mountains of crap to deal with. But we have a mountain of crap inside us, and one of the steps is really helpful in undoing the knots of emotional and spiritual illness. The old life, living in the killer malady; the new life, living in the solution. Letting go the old life. I would not suggest a 5-year gap between the first meeting and the second meeting. But you see, I did go to the first meeting, and even though I was shocked by who was there, and shocked that people could stop drinking, and that anyway, even though I admitted I was an alcoholic, I still went to the pub because I was shocked and a fish out of water. And somehow I was fortunate to be alive to get to the second meeting, and it was touch and go along the way. I can truly say I experienced long periods of psychosis, which is knowing I'm doing something wrong and what the solution can be, but can't get to the solution because my head's mad and truly insane. I kept on doing the same thing over and over again, and hoping the next day I'll be able to stop, or the next evening. Wanting never to wake up, and never wanting anyone who I had known from before to see the person I'd become at the end of my drinking. I was full of guilt. I didn't know I was, but I was. I was full of guilt and shame and remorse. I felt I'd let the world down, and I was useless. That's how it felt. I had failed to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. My brave face had worn away, and my ego was a brittle mask behind which a broken human shrank from life, and I had simply had enough. It was time to try, one last time, to try stop the drink. I'll go into that story another time. And yet, even with all that happened, trying to stay sober on my own, even though I knew by then it was the only way to survive without the help, the only way to survive was with the help of other people, and love and kindness, and simply being in the company of non-drinkers, I would have perished at my own hands by drinking. Definitely. This is why I'm happy to share my experience, strength and hope on a daily basis, inside meetings with groups to which I belong, and anywhere when asked. What is it like today? Sometimes I can feel thirsty for a drink. If I watch too many adverts on the TV which show conviviality with alcohol, and recollections of the old convivial successful life, because believe you me, there was a lot of success, which turned into a nightmare, which it did. It turned into a living hell. Even then I can be subconsciously swayed, but these feelings of thirst are fleeting, and the greater feeling of well-being, which is reinforced by being in fellowship, keeps me safe in the moment and hopefully today. So even when I can't get to meetings, it's not the end of the world, because there's lots going on the internet, and one of the things which I found absolutely amazing is just how many thousands of people share a message of experience, strength and hope. It can be from one sentence or to many sentences about what's working for them today, how they feel and what they can do about it. Usually when we have a problem which we don't know the answer to, we ask for help, and that can come in the form of meditation, having a reflection about it. What would somebody else do in my shoes? What is the good way forward in all of this? And it's not to crush other people out of it or out of the equation. It's what is my part in what's going on in my life and who is causing the problem. And usually I need to look at me and my behaviour and attitudes. Usually I expect something which can make me resentful if I don't get it. I might feel like I deserve to be treated better. And we all have this, because people out there who are equally mad with life, maybe not alcoholics, but they've got some entitlements they feel they have, will push us about a bit, and better to step round them rather than go through them. But we will get angry. Every emotion is applicable in recovery. It's then what we do. So when I say, how am I feeling to myself, I feel okay now, nothing's bothering me. Why? Well, not much has happened since I woke up, which is, in fact, it's only 8 o'clock in the morning now, but I've been up since 10 to 4. I have strange sleeping patterns, but that's just because of the way I used to work. I'll be up at 4, in the gym at 5 or 6, depending on which one I was going to, and then at work by this time, and then 12 14-hour days was just my regular way of dealing with my occupations, because I was always last man standing, and I was resentful that no other bugger seemed to put in as much as me. I had greater expectations of people than I should have had, and I had a greater expectation of how it should look, how life should look, and how it should be. So yes, I always was there, last man in the office or on the floor, doing whatever it was that needed to be done. But I was trying to be perfect and make it perfect for whatever reason. I just didn't want it to be wrong. Now that's great in some ways, but it makes us overcompensate for what ought to be happening. Setting processes in place and making sure the manpower is right, rather than compensating for that manpower being missing. Yeah, well, that could go on that debate for a long, long time. So, where am I now? I don't do any of that anymore, and I'm so glad I don't. I really am. Although I sort of do things. What I do is I try help. Sometimes I help, and sometimes I'm a hindrance. But if you've heard anything here today which is not applicable to you, discard it. It doesn't apply to you. But if you found something which does help in some way, maybe more meetings, maybe make friends with people in fellowship, maybe make friends in the family again if you can, community, work, whatever it is, it's adopting a new approach without drink, and that will make us mad as hell, because it's fractious time. But it can't be any worse, hopefully, than the time, or the last saloon time, where we were standing but in oblivion, and the pain then is coming through those 90 days, or however many it takes, and however many meetings it takes, to say, well, now I'm starting to see the solution to my life, one day at a time. Maybe I do need to make some changes apart from drinking, and that is where the 12 steps help us greatly to get our freedom of choice back, freedom to live one day. Make plans too, make plans for the future, and as long as you know the steps to make those plans happen, rather than just a fantasy, then you're on track, and you can change your direction. whenever you like, by having your feelings right in the moment of now. If you feel right in the moment of now, okay. If you feel wrong in the moment of now, all you have to say is, I don't feel right, and work at it. But the answers come with the steps and with dialogue with other people. This is not about solving problems and being the best in the world. This is about working in the solution of life rather than a bath or ocean of alcohol. AA was my lifeboat, and thank goodness there was some kindness in there, people suggesting rather than telling, people realising that it's one fellowship with one element, a desire to be sober and help other people. And once you are sober, you make your choices based on reality. It's not, I'm going to change the world. It's about you and your choices in reality today. Can do, can't do. So winding up, the Serenity Prayer. Excuse me for shifting, I have nerve damage all over, and it's irritating me this morning. The Serenity Prayer, can do, can't do. I can do this, I can't do that. And the wisdom to know the difference. So my mental jogger in the moment or any time, when I'm not quite sure, is, am I in a can do this, or can't do this, because I don't have the skill, the knowledge, or I can't do this because it's bad for me. Or, I don't want to do this because I don't feel like it. Now, isn't that interesting? I don't feel like doing this. I need to do something else. This is wrong for me. I don't feel right. You have those choices in recovery, but in the drinking times, we tended to be rebellious conformers. We would be rebellious in our heads, and sometimes rebellious around us. But we had to conform to a pattern of drinking, and anything which supported that, we were likely to follow. I know I did, but I didn't do it consciously. I wasn't that aware of where I was headed. This is the problem with addiction. If we actually knew what was going to happen to us, could we stop it? I don't know, because drink made me feel okay, and then it made my life a living hell. So I know my own journey was as difficult as it needed to be, and it wasn't any worse than anybody else's. I don't think it was any better than anybody else's. But you know, the traumas, they are as bad as they get, and they feel that way for anyone. So the can do, can't do, Serenity Prayer, winding up, and I'm not winding you up, I hope, is to God or in good conscience, or whatever your faith is, fellowship for sober, with many faiths and beliefs, as diverse as can be, all living on common ground around sobriety, and not controlling each other. Never. Or I'd be out the door. Or I don't know, no, I wouldn't be out the door. I'd be saying, hang on a minute, we've got some traditions here which say we can be ourselves, and we can make suggestions to each other, but we can't tell each other what to do. So there. I can't tell you what to do. Anyway, to God or in good conscience, the Serenity Prayer, which helps me be restored to sanity when there's madness around me, restored to sanity in the moment of now. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is going to be learned all day long, and just for today.